Hello and welcome to the 5th game of the Medieval Wars between TyRanT and RVK. As we know, the score currently lies at 3-1 to TyRanT, and we're going to be going into game 5 right now, which is a 2 versus 2 on Arabia. Now I'm going to speed things up just a little bit for now. Thanks to user patch, we can put it on 75% speed and not all out ridiculously fast. And we'll introduce the players, see who we've got and what we could be expecting from this game. So, in red up to the northwest of the map, we do have the Viper. He's playing as Mayans. And his teammate in almost invisible grey over to the right of the map is Jordan23 playing as Chinese. So Team TyRanT consisting of the Viper and Jordan23, the Rombo combo of Age of Empires almost. They're really good friends, and you know they play together so much that they are so familiar with each other's play styles that it just make them a pretty tough opponents to play against. Anyway, down to the southwest of the map, in green we've got RVK Orcus, aka Chris. He is playing as Chinese. And over to the far right of the map, in purple, we've got RVK Dogao playing as Mayans as well. So it's Mayans and Chinese mirrored on Arabia. And oh, it looks like Dogao trying to steal that boar right there. He did make an attempt at that, but Jordan heading him off, stopping him from doing so. He says, thank you, I'll have my boar back. Losing no health on that scout, and that obviously means that Dogao, failing to lure that boar in, has lost quite a lot of health on the Eagle Warrior, which is pretty unfortunate for him if he's intending to go for a drush. So Jordan coming out on top there, Dogao wasting a little bit of time trying to lure that in, losing health on his Eagle, and means that Dogao lost some scouting time as well, but not too affected by that, bringing in those sheep there now as well. And he's going to bring that in. Doesn't look like Viper's planning on laming at all right here, unless he finds a boar on the front now, which is going to be very unlikely as we're already hitting the 6-minute mark. So I'm going to slow things down just a little bit, because if any of these players are going to drush, they will be putting their barracks down in the next few seconds, and we already know for a fact that the Viper here is going to drush, as he started to take some gold at the back. So Mayans, Viper going to be drushing, and very nicely timed on that boar there. Just as this one was running out, this one was walking back, hits it down, and no food lost at all. That's efficiency right there. Anyway, so Viper's going to drush right here with a barracks going down. Anyone else going to do the same? I expect maybe Dogao might. Mayans certainly aren't a bad civilization to drush with. He too making very good use of his boar right there, and these guys really at the top of their game, not wasting any resources at all. Dogao perhaps with a few too many villagers gathering from that boar all at once, but even so, not bad from him at all. Barracks going down on the front, and he is also going to be doing a drush. Now the thing with Arabia is that drushing is pretty nice, but as it's really hard to actually wall up completely, it does mean that if you drush, it's not really going to be followed up by a fast castle all that often, or even at all, because it's very hard to actually do the walling and protect yourself from a flush if it comes in. So it's very common to see drushing into feudal rushing, into castle age rushing. Well, it's not really a rush by castle age, I guess, but even so, drushing doesn't often lead to fast castles in Arabia unless you've got an easy map to wall. So in this situation, Dogao here, he's got a pretty hard map to wall, let's be honest. It's never going to be easy on Arabia, and it's likely then, as he's playing as Chinese as well, Mayans even, that he will be making a couple of archery ranges once he gets up to the feudal age. See if Chris is... no, he's not. Okay, so Chris isn't actually going to be making a drush. He is just going to be walling up, going for a fast feudal, and perhaps he'll make some archers or some scouts once he gets up to the feudal age to deal with whatever the Viper's got out on the map. So Viper sending over 3 militia right now, and they're going to be over at Chris's base in a moment. But Chris buying himself some time, he's walled up at the front, and the Viper is going to have to go all the way around the back now, walling up over this lake as well, just to make sure that no units can get in. And Viper's going to have to come all the way around. He does have his Eagle Warrior back here, so perhaps he'll scout it. And Chris is going to have a little bit more of a difficult time walling the back, I think. It's always hard in Arabia even, to wall up fully. But Chris is buying himself time, as I said. Viper now seeing this wall, knows he's got to go round, and by the time he gets round to this side, obviously infantry being so slow moving, Chris may actually be up to feudal. He's actually nearly there right now, on about 80%, 81 right now, and he's going to be up to feudal by the time Viper makes it round. If he quick walls this, then he actually might be okay, and Viper might struggle getting in which case this drush is going to be pretty ineffective. Over on the other side, it looks like Dogao did lose his eagle to Jordan's TC, which makes it 3 militia and a scout versus 3 militia for Dog, which is not good at all. Does mean that Jordan's going to force him right back, and Dogao's drush is going to be pretty ineffective, losing a little bit of villager gathering time there, but it's enough to send Jordan away. Now the thing is, Viper, he knows that Chris is a lost cause. He knows he's already up to the feudal age, and he can't really fight him with his militia. So he's going to go head over to Dogao's base right now, and we could see a 2v1 situation with Jordan and Viper sending their militia into Dogao's base to try and maybe hit his gold. I mean, this would be a perfect spot to aim for. Dogao only has 3 militia, and against 6 and a scout, it's going to be pretty difficult. But it seems like Viper and Jordan, neither of them going to go commit to that, and they're sending their militia back home, perhaps to act as a little bit of a defense against what Chris might be doing, which is actually going to be scouts. We have a look at Viper's point of view right now. I think he did see that stable going up. Yeah, he did see that stable going up from Chris with his eagle. He had that positioned around there, and he did scout very clearly that Chris is going to be making scouts. So is Chris now starting to add those scouts in, and I think the reason they're coming back to their bases at this stage is that they've got that intel. They know that there's going to be some scouts coming out. Let's add in a spearman or 2. And let's bring our militia back to defend against the scout cavalries that are going to be coming in just a couple of seconds' time. So Viper's making an archery range right now. We'll probably see some archers coming out of him. He's playing his mines, of course, and it makes sense for all of these players to go with archery ranges. Chris, I think, using that fast feudal time, that little advantage into the feudal age to go with scouts, as he can use that time advantage to get some units over there and do some damage before the Viper can really make much military to defend. So it's a good job that he did bring these militia back, otherwise the villagers gathering the deer here would be in a little bit of a tough spot. They would certainly be having to retreat right now. But with this army here, Chris is going to be hard pressed to actually do any damage, and so instead going to head straight over to Jordan's base. Jordan chasing down these militia, and it's quite funny when you see players doing a lot of drushing. It's quite funny to see them still have militia into well into the castle age. But this is kind of interesting. Viper now going up to the castle age, and Jordan 23 looks like he's doing the same. He's trying to get a blacksmith up here. The scouts from Chris delaying things a little bit, almost losing a villager. Very, very close to losing a villager there. Bringing them back just in time, and Chris might get one here. But Jordan bringing in a spearman, going to be able to force him away just. And Jordan losing a lot of health on these villagers, but not losing a villager, which is fortunate for him. A lot of villagers walled in at the back here, but Jordan going to go for a fast castle. The Viper going to go for a fast castle, and it's a pretty risky strategy to do on this map. Thankfully, they did scout that stable, and they've been able to make a few spearmen to defend from the scouts, but I'm a little bit worried for Jordan here, because as we can see, Dogao is bringing in some archers right now, and neither he nor the Viper are into the castle age, which means that Jordan here is going to have to put a watchtower up on this gold at the front. He's going to have to make some skirmishes to defend with, but I don't think he's actually got that much resources in the bank as he's doing that fast castle. Now, fast castling, as I said at the start of this game, it's extremely risky. It's something that you don't see very often, because if your opponent decides to flush you, if you can't wall up, there's very little you can do to stop them. And now Dogao and Chris both in Jordan's base, and they're going to be a bit of a nuisance. They might be able to pick off a few villagers here and there, but for the time being, Jordan, surprisingly, not losing a single villager just yet. Viper's starting to make some archers though, and I imagine he will upgrade those straight to crossbow once he reaches the castle age, which is now, which is a pretty damn good time actually, considering that this is Arabia, and he did a drush, but even so, 16 minutes 30 seconds to actually reach castle is a good time, and crossbows now being researched. So I think Viper's going to have to send most of his army over to Jordan over here just to help him out a little bit. Of course, another issue with fast castling is that you're not going to have as much army as someone who's been making army throughout the feudal age. and have been doing so for a long time. So it's very possible that Dogao and Chris can defend from some castle units if they just have the numbers. The issue now is that they're going to try and make as much or do as much damage as they can. Jordan having to move his wood collectors around, but still not losing any villagers by looks of things. Maybe one dying here, not sure, but so far managing to defend just fine. And the Viper now does have crossbow done. Jordan 23 also up to the castle age, and he's been making some skirms, so I wouldn't be surprised if we see elite skirmisher coming out from him. And let's see, has he got +1? Yeah, +1's done. Maybe bodkin arrows soon, but it's quite expensive to get straight away. He might end up losing a little bit of time, villager productions and things like that, so he's probably going to wait a little bit before he gets +2. But for now, the skirmishers should do the job. Against scouts, though, not so great, and he will lose them pretty quickly if he fights the scouts head on. So under a little bit of pressure here, under quite a lot of trouble, and Jordan's going to have to make an escape from here. All these villagers penned in, losing one, maybe losing another as well, and having to escape out of the back right there. Dogao pressuring that quite nicely. But I think Viper and Jordan have enough army here to repel this if they group together and actually attack together. Viper's in Dogao's base, trying to do what damage he can to any villagers. Doesn't look like he's been able to pick much off, to be honest. And fighting against skirmishers with +1/+1, not really working out too well for him right there. Gonna have to get away. And I think now Chris is up to the castle age, and that kind of makes sense. I mean, he's not made too many scouts. I think 4 or 5 maybe losing a couple as well, but 4 or 5 scouts. He's been pretty unharassed this entire game so far, and after seeing Jordan and the Viper doing fast castles, he knew that he had to get up to the castle age pretty quickly at this stage as well. Also adding in another stable and researching bloodlines, so we can expect to see knights from Chris and a nice little raid at the back here from him as well. Maybe I'll pick this villager off fairly easily, maybe this one as well, but nope, they're going to get in range of the TC, and Chris is going to have to go back, potentially getting a second village there. Nicely done by him. And Viper's going to have to come back and head this off. Doesn't look like he's going to be able to catch these scouts up though, and that's one nice thing about having scouts, I guess, or any cavalry units. Their speed really does make it a lot easier to avoid your enemy if you're paying attention to your army, that is. So both Jordan and the Viper up to castle age right now, but Viper looks like, adding in his 3rd TC already. Jordan's going to be a little bit slower as he did build this watchtower here, and he's going to have to get some stone in order to actually build another TC. So it looks like he's going to stick on 1 for now, maybe concentrate on building some more military to deal with Dogao. And, oops, I accidentally clicked on that. Wow, I didn't realise that changed the fog of war in spec mode, that's new. Viper loses a couple of villagers back here. Chris making really good use of these scout cavalry. They've got +1 defense as well, which is an indication to the Viper that Chris will be making knights once he gets up to the castle age. And Chris now is up to castle. 3 stables going down. That's a lot of knights that's going to be produced by him, and he's not actually got enough villagers on gold there to sustain knight production. He's probably going to want to add a few more in, and he's going to do exactly that. But even so, 3 knights at a time, and a second TC going down. So Chris going to be making a lot of military here by looks of things, and trying to get those knights out as quickly as he can. The question is, who is he going to focus down? Now already it seems like these knights are going to be going over to Dogao's side. Dogao, of course, is still in the feudal age, and he's not even clicked up to castle yet. He's lacking a bit of gold to do that, so it's kind of risky to go and send all of your knights over to your opponent straight away when your opponent, your teammate even, could be under a lot of pressure from 2 castle age armies very shortly. So Dogao here going to have some aid from Chris, and that does mean that if Jordan does come in with a load of crossbows, then he's going to be able to help him out a little bit. Viper though, sending a little army of crossbows back here. +2 is done on them, so we're going to make okay, shortish work of the knights. They don't have +2 yet, but even so, with +2 it does help, definitely helps a lot. Knights in the back right here, chasing down what they can of Jordan's army, but Jordan may have to pick off a couple of villages as well, but I think this army here is going to die. I mean, being chased down by this many units, obviously knights in here as well, and Jordan I don't think is going to be able to fight that, especially with the skirmishers and archers from Dogao as well. Even if he turns and fights, he is going to lose his entire army, so that's a pretty big loss for Jordan there. Of course, Dugout and Chris not losing any units in that battle at all, apart from 1 or 2 villagers from Jordan. But Jordan, surprisingly, managing to pick off another villager right there. Man, he's making very good use of another one as well. Wow. Jordan really making good use of that crossbow there. He got away with way too much. I don't think they focused down that crossbow nearly as quickly as they could have done. So it looks like Viper was heading into the back of Chris's base here, but Chris with 2 watchtowers up right there, 3 even, 4 at the front. Wow, Chris playing pretty defensively with these 4 watchtowers, but it does mean that he can send his knights away from his base without having to leave them back at home to defend. He can go all out on sending his army across the map to try and attack where he can. So Viper now coming in as well, and it does seem like they're kind of going one at a time. Jordan first and the Vipers coming in, and that is certainly not so good at all, especially with this amount of knights coming in from behind and the fact that Dugout's bringing his army around the front. There's a watchtower here. I think Viper's army could be in for a little bit of a tough time right here, especially with the amount of skirmishers that Dugout has. Viper likely to lose the majority of his crossbows here, and that's 2 really bad engagements for Team TyRanT. They really have lost a lot of units here without achieving all that much. I'd say Jordan did make good use with that 1 crossbow back here, but other than that, that engagement from the Viper, pretty ineffective, losing quite a few crossbows there. And now Dugout is going up to the Castle H. Jordan now just coming in on the front, and if Chris and Dugout want to, they can clear this up pretty quickly. There's enough knights there to do so, and they have got +2 defense right now. But Chris looks like he's going to head straight over to Jordan's base, see what he can find. And Jordan's only just got his 2nd TC up, so he's running certainly a little bit further behind in terms of eco, considering he went up to the Castle Age so early. Chris already on the 3. The Viper's been on 3 for ages, and he's got a lot of gold in the bank, that is for sure. It could be the case that the Viper is planning on going up to the Imperial Age pretty soon. Yeah, obviously he needs to keep producing villagers, but now he's going to keep adding in more farms, handcarts being researched, and he's got all that gold in the bank as well, which, if I'm not mistaken, judging by the amount of gold he's got, judging by the amount of farms he's producing, we could probably expect to see Eagle Warriors out of him, as Eagle Warriors are obviously an extremely gold intensive unit. Now he is taking enough stone for a castle. Perhaps he's going to put that down before he goes up to the Imperial Age. In fact, the castle's going up right now, and that's going to be a bit of a defensive castle there. It does mean that if Chris decides to raid with any knights, he should be able to defend a little easier. But yeah, bit of a bad engagement here for Dugout if he decides to go for it. Viper and Jordan both here together, but Chris coming in as well, and I think they should have enough crossbows here to deal with the knights. Should be able to pick off a couple of knights fairly easily there, especially with the hill advantage. Yeah, I had to say it. But Chris could get a couple of picks here if he needs to, or if he wants to. Surprisingly, just leaving it, he could have picked that villager fairly easily, but raiding in at the back as well, attacking a house for now. Not really such effective raiding, but should be able to pick off a couple of villagers here, which is good for him, as Jordan's economy at this stage is running slightly further behind. Gonna lose a few knights in the process. In fact, these knights are going to go down pretty quickly actually if Jordan just turns around. And Chris not going to have so much luck here. Maybe he's going to try over at the Viper's base, but there's a lot of army from RVK here. I mean, there's not really that much army from TyRanT. We have a look at it. Jordan's army is about 6 crossbows. Viper's army is about, I don't know, 15 crossbows, or 22 crossbows. There's some back at home as well. But really not a huge amount of army from them. And if we compare that to the amount of knights and the amount of crossbows that Dugout and Chris have, they really have the upper hand in military at the moment. They could make a push if they just attack, for instance, Jordan or Viper. They could make a good push. It looks like they're going to head over to Viper's base right now, in the only area that he really is open, which is on his right flank. And Chris is going to come in with the knights right now. Viper doesn't seem to have a huge amount to defend with. His army is mostly over here, and it's a long way back, especially when the knights are already at your door. But Viper looks like he's going to make a quick wall, putting up buildings very quickly indeed, stone wall as well, and going to try and wall Chris out. But Chris banging down on these archery ranges, might be able to pick them off if he focuses one down. He could pick that off and get in, but the Viper's going to wall up behind this again. A siege workshop going up as well, and I imagine he'll make a mangonel to try and deal with the crossbows and the skirmishers from Dogao here, but there's a lot of knights, and that is going to be pretty difficult for him to defend against. He's not making any monks, but he is pretty much up to the Imperial Age right now. He's on 60%, and yeah, he's not making any plumed archers either. I think he made one earlier, but I think that may have just been a misclick or something along those lines. But so far, no plumed archers coming out, but we do see barracks going up. And if we have a look at his blacksmith right now, I think that may have just been a blacksmith upgrade that got completed, but could be the case that he is going to be making those blacksmith upgrades for the infantry, and going with Eagle Warriors once he gets up to the Imperial Age. So, as I said, a pretty damn big army from Chris and Dogao here. It's just a bit of a shame for RVK that they're not managing to do all that much with it. They are now deciding that after trying Viper without luck, going to head over to Jordan's base and do what they can over there. That's a lot of knights. And the Viper going to have to get out of the way of that, otherwise he will lose the entirety of his crossbow force. But now, up to the Imperial Age, and the Elite Eagle Warriors are coming out. Upgrades wise, well, chainmail armor is being researched. We might see El Diablo at the castle, and that is going to mean that his Eagle Warriors are pretty damn beefy. Once they're upgraded to Elite and El Diablo is completed, you will have 100 health on that. But this battle over here at Jordan's base is certainly looking very messy. There's really not a lot that Jordan can do to defend against this. He has no army, so to speak of. One mangonel at the front is not going to be enough, and he's forced to garrison most of his villagers inside of these two TCs, which is not a good thing for him at all. Certainly delaying him a lot. But Elite Eagle Warrior is done for the Viper, and he is going to be churning them out pretty quickly. That gold that I mentioned earlier already being spent, and it does require a lot of gold for the upgrades that you need for the Elite Eagles. It does require a lot of food as well, and his economy is set up pretty well to do so. But got a pretty good advantage on Imperial times. We have a look, Chris is now advancing, and considering he made so many knights, that's not too bad of a time. Bear in mind that the Viper did make archers only, which means, well, it favours going up to the Imperial Age pretty fast, as it doesn't require... Oh, it's El Dorado. Where did I get El Diablo from? That's something completely different. What am I on about? It's El Dorado, not El Diablo. What even is El Diablo? I'll write in the description. I'm completely confused. I'm extremely tired. I've had a day of shopping today. Been on my feet all day. I'm knackered. But anyway, he's going to get 100 health on those guys, and at least I can remember the stats. Yeah, so at least now the Viper can defend Jordan for the time being, but Chris is on his way up to the Imperial Age, and he's got a lot of knights out, as I said. He is going to be making more as well. 4 stables right there. And I don't see a castle from him at all. So it looks like he will upgrade to Cavalier once he gets up to the Imperial Age. So Chris going to be making Cavalier. And it's not such a bad choice. I mean, against Eagle Warriors, the Cavalier will come out on top. They do have better melee armor. They do have more health. And they do have a higher attack. So they are going to be a good unit choice for Chris to make. But maybe later on he might want to make some Chuko Nu as well, as Chuko Nu fare pretty well against both Eagle Warriors and Plumed Archers. Pretty versatile unit. So Chris now up to the Imperial Age, and he's got a pretty big wall going on here. I have noticed that they both have... Oh no, they don't both have. It was Chris has fortified wall. But it seems like they're trying to make a little bit of a team wall here. If they can wall this off, then they're going to have a team wall, and they're going to be able to set up trade pretty effectively. Of course, in 2v2 games, securing your trade line, in any team game, securing your trade line is extremely important. And getting the trade going and getting a safe trade line is so crucial in the late game to being able to keep making those gold units, getting that gold income. Castle going up at the front for Chris then, but continuing at the moment to make knights, and Cavalier is 50% complete. Viper trying to chase him down where he can with these eagles. Plus 4 defense done on that, but, well, 3 melee armor. Compared to the 4 of the knights, the 120 health versus the 100, and the 12 attack versus the 9+1. Chris has pretty low health on these knights though, so if the Viper does have to rally back to his base, he might just be able to defend reasonably well. But these knights getting a lot of villager kills pretty easily, killing them off at the moment, and Viper doesn't seem to be doing all that much about it, sending seems like 2 groups of Eagle Warriors out at the front, 1 around the back, but Chris is fully walled up, and there's no way that the Viper's going to be getting through these fortified walls with Eagle Warriors alone. They are not going to be able to do it, but he is plonking a castle down on this hill at the front. Quite an aggressive castle, and I kind of like that decision. It's going to mean that he can pressure this wall. It means he can get up some trebs or whatever and start to knock down these gates or something like that. Seems like as well that the Viper paid some, well, he did just pay some tribute to Jordan. Not sure exactly why, but right now there's not really a hell of a lot going on this right hand side of the map. Chris has still got Cavalier, well, Cavalier now, in the back of the Viper's base here. Could get a few more villagers with that fairly easily. And there's Cavalier out on the front, going to be facing up against the Eagles. And now Viper is switching to plumed archers by the looks of things. If we have a look at his castles, he's not actually making plumed archers. He was making plumed archers, and he has started to get the upgrades on there. So maybe we'll see him make some more plumed archers very shortly. But there's certainly no harm in mixing your army up a bit. Eagle Warriors alone aren't going to come out on top against the Cavalier, so making the plumed archers for a bit of additional firepower behind is going to be a good choice, I think. They do a pretty good amount of damage, and they're fairly cheap as well, so it's always a good choice to add them in. Viper though, if we have a look at his population, he's at 183 population right now. Compare that to Chris's 130, Jordan's 120, and Dogow's 118. He has got a massive army in comparison to everyone else, and I think that's probably why he's doing a bit of a split push right now. He's got one army outside of Chris's base, starting to work on taking down this castle, and one army over at Dogow's base right here. Dogow is going for plumed archers. He has got +4 on those. So that's Bracer and Chemistry done, and +1 defense as well, but not enough plumes there to fight the Eagles realistically. And Viper just going to keep him inside of his base while Jordan decides, well, not decides, but starts to get some army on the go. Lots of stables back here, and I'm not sure if he built them back there to kind of hide them from Dogow and Chris, but Jordan at the back making light cavalry. That's an interesting choice. Cavalier being researched as well, and he's got a lot of resources in the bank. He really could step on the gas anytime now with making military. Making light cavs for now. I mean, it's not like Dogow has a huge army. He's got some plumes. It's not loads, and they're able to secure this area for the time being. Jordan a little bit like a bank at the moment, sitting on so much resources, sitting on a load of food and gold as well. Both castles going down for the Viper and Chris. Trebuchet is still up though, and the Viper now adding in some halberdier as well, just to help deal with those Cavalier. But this is quite amusing. 3 trebs versus 3 trebs, villagers coming over to repair them all, and this could be quite a long treb war at this rate. Let's speed things up a little bit for now. Dogow coming over here to Chris's base as well, just to help out, I think. But Chris seems like he's not making all that much military at the moment. If we have a look at his military production, he is starting to make light cavalry, with scout cavalry, upgrading to light cavalry. And that is because his gold is starting to run low. We have a look at his gold camps. He's got one out on the front, but if he loses this area of the map, then both these 2 golds are going to be gone. He won't be able to take gold there, and it's really crucial that he keeps his gold income coming in. At the moment, he really is lacking a lot of gold income. Viper managing to find a way in, not sure how, not sure where, but it may have been over here, but in he goes with his Eagles. That's certainly going to provide a distraction, and he's going to try and pick up as many villagers as he can. He's still there at the front as well. Treb war still raging on. No trebs going down just yet. They're very inaccurate. But yeah, this army at the back managing to pick off a load of villagers. And Chris, of course, forced to bring these Cavalier back from the front. But to be fair, at the front, they're not that useful. Dogow being able to get a few easy picks on the Viper's units here from behind the wall. And for now, just the Treb war continuing on. Looks like Viper's going to lose these Eagles eventually. But doing a lot of damage with them still. Picking off a lot of villagers there. Very easily done, and I'm not really sure how he got in. I think there may have been, yeah, there's a gate here. Maybe Chris left it open somehow. And now, of course, with these Cavalier in here, you will be able to clean this up pretty easily. Over on the right, we've got Dogao again versus Jordan, of course. And, whoa, looks like this Onager got a really nice shot on the Plumed Archers over here. Plumed Archers pretty resistant to Onager fire, actually. And he's going to try and take one down right now, as he focuses fire on that. Gonna take another shot, only losing 2, but a lot of health coming off of these guys. And Jordan still doesn't seem to have all that much in the way of army. He's sitting on 2.5k in the bank, but his population now is starting to rise pretty sharply. 24 cavalry, I'm assuming then that, yeah, somewhere over here, they've made their way into Chris's base. And the Viper still sending him resources. It's kind of interesting because he's not exactly being slung, because it's not a typical sling where the other person stays feudal, but he's just sending him excess resources. And to be honest with you, I'm not 100% sure why. It's not like Jordan's really short on resources here, but granted, he was a little slower to get up to the Imperial Age. Perhaps he needs that little boost to get all the upgrades that he wants. Either way, it's a little bit of a 2v1 situation over in Chris's base right now. This castle is starting to go down. 2 trebuchets from the Viper whittling away at that, and the Viper mixing in Plumed Archers right now as well. Those Eagles going down extremely quickly. But thankfully Jordan's here as well, a few Cavalier just to help protect these Trebs. But I think now Viper's adding in these Halberdier as well as the Plumed Archers. I think it's going to be absolutely fine for now. And Chris's army now suddenly melting away pretty damn quickly, as the Viper decides to put up another castle right inside of Chris's base. Chris saying GG, and there's no way about it. That's it. RVK taking another loss, and I think after seeing this army here and losing so many Cavaliers so quickly, Chris just couldn't make enough army after that stage. I mean, light cavalry weren't going to cut it after losing these two gold piles as well, which is exactly what would have happened once this castle went down. It's really, really bad news for them. Also, no trade at all at this stage. They weren't able to secure a trade line, and that's pretty unfortunate. It looks like the Viper and Jordan did. They did have fortified walls done. They did have pretty much a team wall going across the middle, and I believe, yeah, we have a look, yeah, 1 trade cart up, but they would have been able to start trading. But really nicely played by the Viper there. He did do an interesting style. I liked the fact that he went for the Eagle Warriors first. Of course, they're a great raiding unit. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to do that much raiding with them, but once he got past the raiding stage, he decided, yeah, I'm going to switch to Elite Plumed Archers now. They're going to be great for the long game, they're cheaper to produce, and switching to Halberdier as well to deal with the Cavs from Chris was a great choice. So Chris really couldn't stand up to that. Dogao probably faring a little better on his side, but once Chris went down, or once Chris would have inevitably gone down, it would have again been a 2v1 situation, and I doubt that Dogao would have been able to do much in that position. So anyway, that's it. Game number 5, making it 4-1 to TyRanT. Can RVK make a comeback? Well, I guess we'll have to wait and see, and you'll find out very shortly, as I'll be uploading another video tomorrow. So thanks for watching, guys. As usual, I've been Zach, and I will see you next time.